There's a truth most people don't like to admit. Not everyone will respect you. And that's not always a reflection of you. It's often a reflection of them, their values, their insecurities, their upbringing, their fears. But how you respond, that defines who you are. So let me share with you 5 powerful ways to handle people who don't respect you. When people disrespect you, the most natural instinct is to react. You might feel the urge to defend yourself, to raise your voice, to put them in their place. But here's the truth. When we react impulsively, we give away our power. We let someone else's behavior dictate our actions. And when that happens, we've already lost, not to them, but to ourselves. The alternative is harder. It takes more discipline. It requires strength. It demands that you stay grounded in your values. What does that mean? It means choosing who you want to be, even when the world doesn't make it easy. It means refusing to let someone's disrespect push you into becoming someone you're not. Because when you know what you stand for, kindness, integrity, patience, courage, you become unshakable. You stop bending to every storm. You stop shrinking in the face of negativity. You become the kind of person who doesn't just talk about character, you live it. Positive values are your compass. They guide your behavior when everything around you feels chaotic. They tell you how to respond when someone insults you, disrespects you, or tries to belittle you. They remind you, you don't have to match their energy. You can rise above it. Staying grounded in your values doesn't mean you allow disrespect. It means you choose a response that honors your standards, not theirs. When someone tries to bring you down, staying grounded is saying, I won't become like you just to win this moment. Because that moment isn't worth compromising who you are. Winning an argument is useless if it costs you your peace. Scoring points in a fight is meaningless if it drags you out of alignment with the person you're striving to be. Let's be honest, this isn't easy. When someone disrespects you in public, when someone spreads lies about you, when someone mocks you or dismisses you, it hurts. It stings. And part of you might want revenge. You might want to prove a point. But here's what many people miss. The best proof is not found in your words. It's found in your actions. When you live with integrity, you don't need to explain yourself. When you stay grounded, you let your life speak louder than their noise. Disrespect is a test. It reveals what you truly believe about yourself. Do you believe you need to fight to earn respect, or do you believe that self-respect is enough? Because the truth is, once you deeply respect yourself, other people's opinions lose their grip on you. You don't need them to like you. You don't need them to approve of you. You don't even need them to understand you. You just need to be able to look in the mirror and know that you didn't betray your values just to win someone's validation. Every time you choose to stay grounded, instead of lashing out, you build something powerful: credibility, trust, presence. People start to notice. Not just the way you respond, but the strength it takes to respond that way. That kind of leadership doesn't shout, doesn't beg for attention. It earns respect by the way it holds itself, quietly, confidently, consistently. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause, breathe. Remind yourself who you are. Let your response come from your center, not your wound. And remember, their behavior is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their character. Yours is shown by how you respond. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to attend every argument. But you do have to protect your values, because when everything around you feels uncertain, those values will be your anchor. And when you stay grounded in them, no one, not even the most disrespectful person, can knock you off course. One of the most important things you'll ever do for your peace, your self-worth, and your growth is learning how to set clear boundaries. It sounds simple, but it's not. It requires self-awareness, courage, and consistency. Boundaries are not about keeping people out. They're about protecting what's within. They define the space where you can be your healthiest, most authentic self. Without boundaries, people will take more than they should, not because they're evil, but because human nature tends to explore how far it can go, especially when it doesn't meet resistance. People who don't respect you will often test your limits. They'll push your buttons, drain your energy, and cross lines. And if you haven't clearly drawn those lines, they won't know where they are. Worse, you might not even know where they are. That's why the first step in setting boundaries is getting honest with yourself about what you can tolerate and what you can't. What behaviors drain you? What situations make you feel disrespected, small, or unseen? You don't need to justify the answers, you just need to acknowledge them. Once you know your limits, the next step is to communicate them. This is where most people struggle. We fear being perceived as rude, difficult, or selfish. But setting boundaries isn't about being unkind, it's about being clear. Clarity is kindness. When you say, I'm not comfortable with that, or I need some time to think before I respond, or I won't continue this conversation if it stays disrespectful, you're not attacking anyone. You're simply stating your truth. And here's something powerful. When you do it calmly and consistently, you don't have to say it twice. The people who respect you will adjust. The people who don't, they'll resist. And that resistance is valuable information. Boundaries reveal who belongs in your life and in what capacity. They help filter the people who genuinely value you from the ones who only value what you can give them. Not everyone deserves access to your time, your mind, or your emotions. Boundaries help you manage that access. It's like locking the door to your house, not because you hate people, but because you love your space. The same principle applies to your life. Here's the key. Boundaries only work if you uphold them. Saying no is easy once. Saying no repeatedly, especially when people push back, is the real work. You have to be consistent. Every time you bend your boundary out of guilt or fear, you teach others that your limits are negotiable. And soon, you'll find yourself back in the same draining patterns you were trying to escape. Boundaries are promises you make to yourself. And every time you keep that promise, you build self-trust. Sometimes setting boundaries means disappointing others. That's okay. You're not responsible for managing other people's reactions. You're responsible for managing your own well-being. And the truth is, people who truly care about you will want you to have boundaries. They'll appreciate your honesty and your self-respect. The ones who don't, they're showing you that their comfort matters more than your peace. Let that be a wake-up call, not a reason to compromise. Boundaries are not selfish. They are self-care. They are self-respect in action. They are the invisible lines that protect your time, your energy, your focus, and your heart. Without them, you'll constantly feel overextended, resentful, and unseen. But with them, you create space for better relationships, deeper focus, and more joy. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to live a life that aligns with your values and priorities. And the only way to do that is by setting clear boundaries and holding them, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of a deep commitment to yourself, because you matter. And your life is too valuable to be lived on someone else's terms. When someone disrespects you, it's easy to take it personally. It cuts deep. And the natural instinct is to ask, what did I do wrong? You start replaying conversations in your head, dissecting every word, every action. You wonder if you could have done something differently. This is where many people get trapped. They begin to internalize the disrespect. They start to believe that someone else's poor behavior is a reflection of their own value. But that's a lie. Here's the truth. How someone treats you is not always about you. In fact, more often than not, it's about them, their beliefs, their insecurities, their wounds, their past. When people act out, disrespect others, or lash out with negativity, they're often revealing something broken inside themselves. If you're not careful, you'll pick up those broken pieces and carry them as if they belong to you. Internalizing someone's bad behavior is like swallowing poison and expecting to feel whole. It doesn't make you stronger, it makes you confused, exhausted, and uncertain of your worth. And over time, it chips away at your confidence. You begin to walk into rooms wondering if you belong. You overthink your tone, your words, your actions, trying to avoid more disrespect. But no matter how perfect you try to be, the people who are committed to misunderstanding or devaluing you will keep doing it. Not because you deserve it, but because that's who they are. You are not responsible for someone else's lack of emotional maturity. You are not the cause of their bad day, their bad habits, or their bad attitude. You might trigger something in them, your confidence, your kindness, your boundaries, but even then, what they do with that feeling is their responsibility, not yours. You can't walk on eggshells trying to protect people from their own reactions. That's not self-awareness. That's self-abandonment. It's important to create space between who you are and how others behave. That space is called perspective. It allows you to observe what's happening without absorbing it. It gives you room to say, this is not mine to carry. And the more you practice that, the more peace you'll feel. You'll start to recognize when someone is projecting their issues onto you. You'll notice patterns, how people who don't respect themselves often fail to respect others. How people who feel powerless often try to dominate or belittle. And you'll begin to see their behavior for what it is, a reflection of them, not a verdict on you. Now, this doesn't mean you ignore disrespect. It means you don't let it define you. You still address it, you still set boundaries, but you don't let it seep into your identity. You don't let someone's bad day become your self-doubt. That's the difference. When you stop internalizing, you start living from a place of self-trust instead of insecurity. You begin to act from your truth instead of reacting to someone else's dysfunction. And here's something powerful. When you stop internalizing people's disrespect, you gain clarity. You stop wasting time trying to decode mixed signals. You stop overanalyzing silence or sarcasm. You simply see it for what it is, disrespect, and you decide what to do with it without attaching it to your worth. You don't need to prove your value to people who are committed to not seeing it. You don't need to twist yourself into shapes trying to be liked. You just need to remember who you are and refuse to shrink in response to someone else's limitations. Let them carry their own weight. Let them sit with their own emotions. You are not their dumping ground. You are not their mirror. You are not their punching bag. You are a whole human being with value that doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's behavior. The moment you stop internalizing what isn't yours is the moment you begin to live with freedom. You stop trying to fix people. You stop questioning yourself. And you start standing in your power with clarity, dignity, and peace. Empathy is one of the most powerful tools you can carry through life. It allows you to see beyond someone's behavior and into their experience. It helps you understand why people might act the way they do, even if their actions are hurtful or misguided. When someone disrespects you, empathy lets you take a step back and ask, what might be going on in their world that's causing this? That perspective can shift everything. It helps you respond with grace instead of rage. It turns confrontation into curiosity. And in many cases, it helps you keep your heart open instead of shutting down. But empathy alone isn't enough, because empathy without boundaries becomes naivety. It turns understanding into enabling. And when you lead with empathy, but forget to protect yourself, you invite pain under the guise of compassion. There's a difference between being understanding and being blind. Some people weaponize your empathy. They know you care. They know you try to see the good in others. And they'll use that against you. They'll test how much you'll tolerate. They'll cross your boundaries and expect forgiveness. They'll behave badly and hide behind excuses. And if you're not careful, you'll keep giving second chances to people who never learned from the first. That's why empathy must be paired with wisdom. You can acknowledge someone's pain without justifying their behavior. You can care about someone's story without allowing them to write over yours. You can say, I see where you're coming from, but that doesn't excuse how you treated me. That's what it means to lead with empathy, but not naivety. It's the ability to understand while still holding people accountable. Empathy doesn't mean making yourself small so others can feel comfortable. It doesn't mean tolerating disrespect just because someone had a difficult past. It doesn't mean absorbing someone's anger or walking on eggshells to avoid triggering them. Those are sacrifices empathy never asked you to make. You can love someone and still walk away. You can care and still choose space. You can understand someone's behavior and still decide it's not acceptable. That's maturity. That's leadership. That's self-respect. And empathy also means being honest with yourself and others. Sometimes we use empathy as a shield to avoid hard decisions. We tell ourselves they didn't mean it, or they're just going through something. And while that may be true, it's not a free pass for repeated harm. You have to pay attention to patterns, not just apologies. You have to listen to behavior, not just backstories. Because someone's pain may explain their actions, but it doesn't erase the impact of those actions on you. When you lead with empathy, you don't write people off quickly, but you don't let them stay in your life unchecked either. You approach situations with compassion, but you also hold to your standards. You give grace, but you don't give endless chances. You recognize that two things can be true at once. Someone can be hurting, and they can also be hurting you. Understanding that duality is what protects your heart without hardening it. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not naive for wanting to believe in people, but you are responsible for protecting your peace. That means using empathy wisely. That means being kind, not gullible. That means knowing when to lean in and when to let go. In the end, leading with empathy but not naivety is a form of strength. It means you choose to see people as more than their worst moments, but you also choose not to lose yourself in trying to save them. It means you remain soft, but not foolish. Open-hearted, but self-aware. It means you lead from love, with clarity, with courage, and with the wisdom to know when enough is enough. Walking away is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, not because you're weak, but because you care. You care about the relationship. You care about being understood. You care about giving people the benefit of the doubt. That's what makes walking away so difficult. But sometimes it's the most powerful choice you can make, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in dignity. When someone disrespects you repeatedly, when they ignore your boundaries, when they show through their actions that they don't value your presence, the most self-respecting thing you can do is remove yourself. Not to punish them, but to protect you. Because your peace, your self-worth, your mental clarity, those things are too valuable to be compromised by someone who doesn't appreciate them. There's a misconception that walking away is giving up, but in truth it's the opposite. It's giving up trying to change someone who has no intention of growing. It's giving up sacrificing yourself in the name of loyalty. It's giving up the idea that you must tolerate disrespect in order to be the bigger person. Walking away is not quitting, it's choosing. Choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, self-respect over constant explanation. But here's what matters just as much as the decision to walk away. How you do it. You don't need to slam the door. You don't need to broadcast your exit or make a dramatic scene. Dignity is quiet. It doesn't yell. It doesn't seek revenge. It simply says, this is not where I belong, and it moves on. You don't need them to see your worth in the moment. Sometimes they won't see it until long after you've gone. And even then, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to honor yourself enough to stop chasing closure from people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Walking away with dignity means leaving the situation without losing yourself. It means choosing not to match their disrespect. You don't have to say everything you're thinking. You don't need to prove your point. The truth is, people rarely hear what they're not ready to receive. So say what needs to be said calmly, clearly, and without malice, and then let go. Not for them, for you. There's strength in not looking back. There's strength in not responding to the provocation. There's strength in moving forward without the need for validation, because deep down you know. Your silence says what your words never could. It says, I know my worth, and I don't need to stay somewhere I'm not respected. Some people will try to bait you into drama even as you leave. They'll want one last argument, one last jab, one last attempt to keep you entangled. Don't fall for it. The moment you walk away with grace, you take the power with you. That's dignity. That's maturity. That's leadership. You don't owe everyone access to you. Some people were lessons, not lifelong companions. Some chapters are meant to end. That's not failure, it's growth. You outgrew the chaos. You outgrew the cycles. You outgrew the need to prove yourself to people who never saw you clearly in the first place. And if it hurts, let it. Let the pain be a sign that you showed up with an open heart. But don't let that pain convince you to stay in places that no longer serve you. Feel it, grieve it, then rise. Because when you walk away with dignity, you don't just leave behind the disrespect. You reclaim your energy. You take your power back. And you step into a life where your value isn't questioned, but honored.